Good evening. We are back. We got a spring in our step because we've actually won a football match for a change. And we have got two wonderful guests for you tonight who need no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Starting with your favourite content creator and mine, one of the most popular faces in the Spurs community. Of course, it's not Sean Butler. It's Luke from Spotlight on Spurs. How are you, Luke?
I'm not doing bad. Thank you very much. I'm definitely not deserving of that, but I'll take it all day long. 100%. A little bit like Spurs' result yesterday. Take it all day long, mate.
Absolutely. Good to see you. And then our second guest, this is the month he normally comes alive. He loves a fun now. He loves a boozer. And sadly, he loves Daniel Levy. It's the legend Sean Butler from Spurs Talk Show. How are you, Sean?
Vindicated, mate. Vindicated. You all promised me things would change when Daniel Levy left, and anything that's changed, it got worse. Bring back my chairman. Bring him back. Bring him back.
You know I can mute you now, Sean, on this one. I can mute you.
I'll mute myself. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you, mate. Nice to see you. And Billy, how are you, mate?
Yeah, all good. Thank you, mate. All good. Pleasure to be on with these two top guys who proper helped us behind the scenes. So looking forward to getting into them. And can't believe we won, to be honest, but there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think, Bill, you've already put in the chat, haven't you, just to plug both of their shows. I don't think they need us plugging theirs, given the size of both already. But Luke's show, please go over and follow Luke at Spotlight on Spurs. And of course, Sean, one of many Sean shows, is in their Spurs Talk Show. But you can also get over to Football Link, his show with Johnny, and Rabbit Hole Ramblings as well, if you fancy a bit of the conspiracy stuff.
Thanks,
Sean. You're still doing. Is that all of them? Is that all three?
And Spurs 5 and Sean Butler
Spurs
TV
5 as well.
And I've got Sean Butler TV, which was football finance content, but there's not enough content in that one, so that's on hiatus until there's some PSR shenanigans going on in the summer. I might start another channel tomorrow just because, why not? Why not? I've got more channels than a psychic, you know me.
Yeah. So look, obviously starting probably the place we only should start is with yesterday's result. Really, really good performance. Sean, start with you perhaps. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, look, I thought the first half was the best first 45 minutes of football we've seen for many, many moons. Really liked the way we set up. I thought Dortmund. People are saying Dortmund were terrible. Look, Dortmund didn't really. I don't think Dortmund had the chance to get onto the ball. We were so aggressive in the press, and every time we were just driving at them, switching the play really nicely. It was lovely to see a bit of inversion from Destiny Udogie, confident left winger in Jedley King. Doing his thing, Odebear back to one of his better performances. And I think we were just coming at them too strong to the point where every time they got the ball back, they would just pump it clear. And then it felt like a role reversal of some of the games that we faced recently against teams like Arsenal or Chelsea or whatever, where it was just a bit of a training ground kind of exercise. Got the goal, sensational, really surprised. And then the red card obviously really hurt their ability to sort of do more damage. To come back into the game. Second half, I wasn't expecting us to be able to put 90 minutes of good football in, because you think about all of the players that were playing yesterday that were either sort of nursing injuries, injections in for Xavi Simons, Bergwijn just back, Udogie not played for a month or so. Solanke not played 60 minutes in months and months and months. So it was natural for us to sort of, once we got the second goal to then sort of, I guess, settle in a little bit. So I wasn't expecting 90 minutes of football, but yeah, in the second half they came back into the game a little bit. There was a little bit more distribution of value to both teams, but I think the only player that I thought on the Dortmund team that gave us any trouble at all was the guy that came on. Was it Ryerson? I forget his name. The guy off the left-hand side. I thought he was pretty handy, pretty dangerous, and obviously Nico Schlotterbeck, who's a wonderful player and a player that I'd love to see Tottenham go after at some point. It staggers me that he's been at Dortmund as long as he has. I've been talking about him for 3 or 4 years. But yeah, from Tottenham's perspective, Connor, mate, I was blown away by how effortless it felt to see the ball being spun around. And again, it just goes to show you that these players are not donuts, right? They are capable of playing football. Yes, of course, you need to improve in certain areas. Yes, you need to have a better profile mix of different talents and criteria within what we've got in the midfield and at the top end of the pitch. But ultimately, the notion that they weren't capable of doing anything else than what we've been seeing for the last 3 or 4 months, I think is just folly. I think a lot of it was by design. And listen, I think Thomas Frank probably felt like this is my last chance saloon. If we don't go for it today and we don't win it, then I'm out of the door maybe tomorrow morning. So he let the shackles off, and it was great to see. I saw someone on Twitter joking that that Thomas Frank was late getting to the stadium, so he didn't get to do his pre-match instruction, and that's why we played so well in the first half. And at halftime, he got in there and said, "Right, guys, now we have to press harder, work, slow down, play a little bit more, just calm down a little bit." And that's why you saw Thomas Frank take over in the second half, and we started to sit back a little bit. But like I say, really nice to see. I want to see more of it. And look, let's not sit there and pretend like it was just because they went down to 10 men. It wasn't. We already had the domination over them in the first 30 minutes. And this isn't a terrible team. Dortmund's a very, very good team. They haven't lost in a long time. Second in the Bundesliga. So yeah, all the players should be given correctly given their flowers. The manager as well, if it was his tactics that sort of went for it. Good. I hope he learned a lesson from that. And just quickly before I shut up, I just want to say massive congratulations to Junai Byfield. I thought he was brilliant when he came on. Thought fantastic. He was 16, like in December, 16 years old. And I also want to give a lot of props to Kevin Danso for not throwing him under too much pressure and then not choosing to get the ball to him unnecessarily, because Dortmund were definitely trying to target down that side. So all in all, mate, yeah, really, 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 really happy, really surprised. I really enjoyed the game, and I haven't had to say that for a long time. So yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I suppose Billy and I are both a bit new to the sort of YouTube community setting up. Well, not new to the community, but new to having our own show. And we were joking backstage that I set up this show before the game and originally named it Spurs Crisis. Which shows you should never preempt what's going to happen with Tottenham, right? And obviously renamed it now to Lifeline for Frank.
You could have changed it to Crisis Over. Crisis Over.
Yeah, I don't think it is, but I just didn't think I could come into this show with that as the name for sure.
Yeah.
After the performance, as you say, and Luke, what do you think in terms of our approach to the game? Do you think that was Frank learning, or do you think it's just as Sean says, sort of last chance saloon, we may as well go for it. We've got loads of players missing. How did you sort of take that?
Yeah, I think you always look at history, right? And we have seen, I think Sean's right, it probably is the best 45 minutes we've seen, but we have seen good 45 minutes, and then it's either been followed up with a bad second half, or it's been a good second half, but it was originally a bad first half. So I think that by just default, we kind of go back by default, we just kind of go back and assume that was a one-off, and that next game it will go back to being defensive football and everything else. It did seem to me like everyone, it was kind of like, what have we got to lose here? Like everybody thinks we're going to lose. No one thinks we're going to win. But I don't like the fact this fan base does it. I didn't agree with it last year, didn't believe it last year, but whenever there's a manager that's under pressure and we get a good result, it's because the players have decided to take control of it and the manager had no involvement, or it's because the other team are really, really bad. Like every team we've beat this year, it's but they're terrible. So everyone can't just be terrible. Like Brentford were absolutely disgraceful. They were a terrible team. They're above us now. Like Dortmund have been in a great run, barely lose games, and all of a sudden now everyone's going, no, they're just a terrible team that we managed to beat. And it was never. You have to give props both sides. You can't just take all the time and say that it's bad on him or whatever. So whilst it might not change my opinion on whether Frank is the long-term manager, you have to give him props 100% to what happened. Hopefully, it is now a case of this is what we're going to do as a blueprint, and I think it has to be that, because otherwise the pressure just mounts straight back on. But I think it was exactly what I want to see from a team. It was pressing, it was energetic, and sometimes you have like an injury crisis like we got, where you stumble across something, and sometimes that just sort of works. So 100%, I think Sean has already said it, but the second half, I've seen some people label that at Frank and criticize him, But if we would have gone full throttle and won the game even 3, maybe even 4-0, but picked up a couple more injuries, what does that sit like against Burnley? And then what does that sit like in the last game that we need to win? So when you consider everything, it made sense to shut up shop. It's just that fans are going to revolt back to, are we going to see that second half performance again consistently, which obviously we hope we don't see.
Yeah, for sure. And Bill, you were there last night as well. You were one of the ones that decided to make the trek over to Tottenham for the game. I think we ended up at about 52,000 in terms of attendance, which actually was better than I expected it to be. What was the atmosphere like last night, mate?
It was incredible, to be fair. It was absolutely incredible. It was a really good one. Obviously, you know what you're going to get with Dortmund fans, like they were doing their usual for the whole time, scarf waving. You know, that constant hum that they have where they're sort of sing for 90 minutes, and they did that really well. But the South Stand was really good. It's probably one of the better South Stand performances I've seen. I was actually sat in a different block to where I normally sat, so I didn't have my season ticket, but so I was a bit higher, and you could really see the South Stand was really buzzing. And it wasn't too bad, like empty seat wise. Like, it was like patches all over, particularly the top areas. But you know, 52,000 for a home Champions League game, I guess, will be a big concern. But I think that would have lifted the mood a lot. And now I think, you know, touch wood, unless, well, we're essentially through anyway, right, regardless, right? But I think the next Champions League game will have a bigger attendance now, because I think that's given the fan base a bit of a lift.
Yeah, knockout football is always more enjoyable. Whoever you're playing, it's knockout, right?
Just particularly with the sort of change in the format, it feels like, you know, there's 100 games, doesn't there, in this sort of league stage, and so actually having a bit more jeopardy in the knockouts, I think, will definitely make a difference. So I can't have you on the channel, Sean, without talking about Heisenberg, Odebert. I thought he had a very, very good game last night. It was quite interesting for me. Obviously, Dortmund, you didn't mention him in terms of the players that played well for Dortmund, because I don't think he did. But someone we've been linked with heavily, Adeyemi, on one side of the pitch, and we've got Odebert on our side. And obviously, we're not going to judge it just on one game. But if you were landing off Mars and that was the first game of football you watched, I think you would have said Odebert was probably the 60-70 million pound winger, and Adeyemi was the kid who hadn't proven himself. A really good game from Odebert last night. Yeah,
I've been looking for James Flower all day long, just to get some paybacks and retribution on his bozo flop Adeyemi, and my Heisenberg, the chemistry maker, the connector in chief. You know, he knows what to do. He's got the recipe to cook, and I thought he was fantastic. What I would say though, just quickly, I'm not going to give him all his flowers, because I would say that he got 2 assists, right? But both assists were. Like the second one, he whips it in, and let's be honest, it was pure luck for what's his name, Solanke. It hits his back heel, hits his back foot, bops back off his front heel. You know, all sorts of madness, chaos there. He gets a little bit lucky, let's be honest. And the first one, the only reason he got a second chance, a second bite of the cherry, was because, let's be honest, if he had the technique to actually just miss-hit the shot like Xavi Simons does all the time, it would have ballooned over the bar. But the fact that he woofed it entirely meant that it bounced in front of him, hits his shin, and then bounces over the defender. So he gets to go again, and then just hammers it as hard as he can into the danger zone, which is a good thing to do, because, you know, if it goes to Romero and Romero's awake to it, which he was, and fair play to him, he puts it in. But even if it doesn't, it's going to bounce off someone's leg. The amount of pace that he put on that hammer. But yeah, I mean, look, I wet myself laughing. I was like, Odebert, go on, my man. And he just completely mishits, like completely woofs the ball, like me on the first tee at Wentworth. Completely misses the ball. I was like, what's going on here? I was laughing. And then, of course, he gets the second bite, and it works out well. But yeah, I thought his aggression with the ball was very, very good. And I thought it was complemented well by Jedley King on the left-hand side. You know, I know people were saying, well, he's so right-footed, but let's not forget that most left wingers are very right-footed. He just doesn't have the ability to cross in with the left. So the frustrating part about his adaptation over to that side was obviously that he had to cut back because he hasn't got the ability to cross whilst running with his left foot. But I thought he did really well. And I actually think it might be, like by hook or by crook, sometimes you stumble across new ideas and new tactics because you're forced into these decisions. But look, one of the criticisms I've always had about Jedley King is that he doesn't connect with other players. right? He doesn't have wavelength. He doesn't find relationships. He's never built a relationship with the guy that's in front of him from a fullback position on the left or the right. You don't have to really do that if you're playing as a forward, as a winger. And he's got the pace. He can certainly take a guy on as well. And, I don't know if he's necessarily going to be able to convert into that sort of role more permanently, because I don't think he's got the finishing acumen that you would need to be able to put the ball in the bins if you're playing off the left. But I generally thought that him and Odebear offered balance, and it meant that we could switch the play with consummate ease. And I think that's what I've been calling for a long time. I didn't think we had someone in the midfield that could switch it. But actually, I thought Bergwall and Archie Gray, they're not going to get many mentions probably from most people. Most people are going to talk about, either Romero having a good shift on the left side, or Danso doing well, or Odebear, whatever. But I actually thought that Archie Gray and Bergwall controlled that midfield tempo really, really nicely. And both of them have got the ability when offered the chance to have a little bit of liberal sort of freedom with how they work the plays and how they work the patterns. And it's the first time I've seen the midfield operate in that regard. And look, the one thing I would say is that in the Premier League, it's a different style of football than it is to European football. And so you're probably not going to get that time. Like Dortmund allowed the players in the midfield to have that extra space to do it. In the Premier League, you certainly won't get that space against Burnley on Saturday, but let's just in isolation, really good performances from all those names I've just mentioned, including my man, Mr. Heisenberg.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you. I mean, it's funny, actually, when you look at some of our better performances, there hasn't been many to pick from. But Bergwall and Gray have actually played in some of them. PSG away, I know we lost that game 5-3, but just in terms of because I think what they do give you, they've got huge amounts to learn and there's a huge development. But they give you energy in midfield, don't they? They've got that sort of youthful Labrador exuberance of being able to get around the pitch and just give you legs in midfield. And look, I think we all know that they're not ready just yet, but I think I agree with you. I think they both had a good performance last night. For me, there wasn't really a bad performance on the pitch, to be honest, other than Muani when he come on, which I'm sure we'll come on to later. But I thought everyone put a good shift in. We've got a comment here from Nathan McQuarrie. Thanks for this, Nathan. So, was Van der Ven missing a good thing for Spurs? Bit of a hot take. They're forced to play differently. What's your thoughts on this one, Luke?
Again, there's a multitude of reasons why, or potentially why we played differently yesterday. I think Van der Ven would have slotted into that team if we play on the front foot. Adeyemi, obviously, I agree. I don't think he had a great game, but he did look dangerous just purely because of that pace. And I think Van der Ven would have probably been able to deal with him even better than what we did. But I think Van der Ven is a huge plus for this team. Maybe he does mean that when he's not playing, Romero's on it a little bit more because he understands that he needs to be on it that bit more. So maybe he impacted Romero's game by making sure that he's the leader in that centre back and he knows that he has to be on it. But in terms of Van der Ven, I think he's a great centre back, and if him and Romero are both on it, then they become increasingly very, very difficult to be able to get past. The problem is just we haven't been consistent enough, and we've allowed pressure too much when they're in the team. We seem to sit back a bit more and allow pressure, and I don't think Spurs as a club, as a culture, I don't think that's something fans are happy to see. But I completely agree. I think everyone had a good performance, and as Sean rightly said, Danso made sure that he didn't put the young kid that came on in danger on occasions. There was quite a few occasions where Porro's always our out ball. It's always let's get it to Porro and let him clip it down the wing. And Danso made sure that on occasions he wasn't doing that, which I think it was a great thing to do. And obviously, Byfield even playing out of position almost because he's mainly a centre half. I just think it was just a great performance. And the second half, it wasn't brilliant on the eye, but again, it was actually a very good performance in terms of just being professional, seeing the game out. And obviously, if they did score, then it all becomes a little bit different. But they didn't really create a chance, and it was only us fans, because we don't believe what's happening at this moment in time. We felt like there's always a chance that they could nick one, but we was in complete control. And obviously the only thing I would have liked to have seen is a couple more of the youngsters just to come on for the last literally 30 seconds just to experience it. I think it's such a quick and easy win for the fan base when they see academy kids come on. And I'm not saying they have to start games or play as long as Byfield did, but if they would have just come on, that whole crowd would have just got right up for it in the last 10, 15 seconds, even if it was something like that. But all round good performance. And as you say, bit surprised by it, to be honest with you, which is it's nice.
Yeah, for sure. And Bill, just before we sort of pivot away from the Dortmund game, I suppose beforehand there was a lot of people critical. I think we're probably all four of us are guilty of this as well. I'm sure of Frank's decision to take Tel out, bring Solanke back in, also picking Spence on the left wing. I think everyone was a bit like, that's weird. I think both of those decisions probably vindicated a little bit in terms of the performance and what ended up playing. So it shows why we're all sitting here and not perhaps involved in football clubs. But what did you make of Solanke's performance, Bill? And then also, just quickly, what did you make of Muani's performance when he came on for Solanke?
I thought Solanke, it was good to have Solanke back. Like, you can tell that he offers something so much different to what we've seen in his absence. I don't think he's quite fully sharp or anything like that yet. I think he's a long way away from being the Solanke that at his very, very best. But he got a goal, and that's all you can really ask for as a striker. So I think he really does show the difference that he's going to make if he is fully fit. And I think I was one of the ones that I'm still not particularly impressed by Frank's treatment of Tel, even beyond this decision. I think there's other times as well, and it's a shame that you can't swap Tel for somebody else in the squad, because I'm sure Muani would be straight on the chopping boards if that was possible. But yeah, definitely vindicated his decision by scoring. And in terms of Muani, I saw there's a story today that we might be looking to terminate his loan, and if we can do that, then please do it, because I don't think I've ever seen a Tottenham player less interested, and we've seen some absolute names in that regard, haven't we? Like Ndombele, someone that gets labelled. I think Ndombele has produced miles more than Muani's producing a Tottenham shirt. That goes to say a lot, and it's a shame because there's a real talent there. I think we saw it in a few games, particularly when he first joined us. I think he really showed flashes, like the PSG game. There's a really talented player there, and I think probably when his sort of World Cup dreams are sort of fading, because I don't think he's probably likely to get in because France are absolutely stacked. I think his mindset's gone as well, and I don't think he really cares. So if we could terminate the loan and bring someone else in, I'd be all for it. What about you guys?
Yeah, I echo everything you just said, mate.
Yeah, I mean, even when I saw his face when he was coming on, I think I wrote it to you, Sean. It was like the face I make when the missus tells me to put the dishwasher on. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it really had zero interest whatsoever. Like petulant teenager being brought on because it was raining a bit. I think it's just, it's a shame, because I think we all defended him a bit at the start, because we said, he had a bit of a broken start to with the injuries, the dead leg, and then the broken jaw, and he showed a couple of little flashes in general play. But he's just regressed terribly, and he looks absolutely abysmal.
He didn't even go
that
for
moment,
the
Spence.
That Spence thing.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry, Luke. Go on.
No. That Spence thing was, for me at that moment, it was like that he don't come back from that. Like he can't come back from that. Just gave up on it. That you could tell all the crowd were just like, what is he doing? Like for a second, I thought he was offside. I thought he's obviously offside, and then you look around, it wasn't anything to do with that. He just gave up. So I was one of the ones I said I think he's a good loan. I think he showed good potential last season, obviously at Juve, but it just comes back to that thing. He didn't want to be here, rejected us numerous times. And then it was kind of like a last minute kind of dash. Obviously, Solanke kind of pushed him in that. So I think if there's any way, I see the rumor was that Kolo wants to leave because he's not playing regularly. I think probably that's more so that he's not playing regularly as the main striker is probably it, because he seems to be playing every game.
Plays every game.
So I can only imagine that he sees himself as a striker and he's not been playing as the striker. But yeah, if there's a way of cancelling it off, and it's quite bad, as I say, I think the decision to swap Tel and Solanke has been vindicated, and sometimes you need that bit of luck, because that could have easily gone the other way. As you said, Solanke's not in the greatest fitness. So if he comes in, struggles, and then doesn't score against Burnley, whereas Tel scores against Burnley, then all of a sudden it starts looking like Frank's made another decision that's gone wrong. So it's good for him that that's able to happen, but obviously, I think the fact that Tel isn't in that squad is probably a detriment to us at this moment in time because of what Kolo's been providing to us.
Yeah, the rule sucks on that. And the other rule that sucks is that I thought that when you finish the league phase, you get to resubmit your entire 25-man squad, but you don't. You've got to stick with the same squad that you had. You're just allowed to swap 3 out and bring 3 in.
Yeah,
it's madness, absolute madness. I don't understand why you don't get a second bite of the cherry submitting a new squad. But as a consequence of that, if Tottenham were to, to sign a couple of players. Like you can imagine that Conor Gallagher's going to go into the squad. You'd imagine maybe Bissouma's going to go into the squad, knowing that Bentancur's out injured or whatever. So then what? So if you do go and sign, insert whoever there, right? If you go and sign an Ademola Lookman or whoever, that's going to be the third player. What does that mean? So Matisse Tell is going to be left out of the squad for the knockout phases as well.
I tell you what's also a problem.
Could be even more baffling if we do one of the transfers that we're rumoured to do today with the West Ham keeper swap.
What is that about, by the way? What is that about?
We're going to talk about that in a minute, but that means one of the spots will go on the goalkeeper as well, which would be mental.
Yeah,
but the thing with the spots is that we need a centre-back has to come into this squad. Right now, we've got Danso, Romero and Van der Ven. Ben Davies is
Dragusin. Yeah, so that'll be one.
So I've always said Dragusin comes in, and then you've got another two slots, basically. Gallagher definitely comes in.
And then
so now,
the third spot's either going to be Bissouma or Tell, or a new transfer. So there's every chance that Matisse Tell's going to and he's been our best. Let's be honest. In the games we played, we haven't done well in recently. He's been probably our best, at least our most interested, our most like sort of. I was trying to think of the word. I can't think of it. But our most like creative forward outside of, you know. And so I feel like if he gets left out again, like I would have no problem with him thinking that he's been treated badly, because I genuinely think he has been treated badly by Thomas Frank.
Yeah, this is where UEFA just sorry, Bill. One last point. This is where you're right. These rules that UEFA just bring in, like what would be the difference to anyone if they said like you can just pick a new squad? I don't get the purpose of the rule. There's no like benefit, or no one's getting a massive benefit by not being able to do it versus being able to do it. It's just a baffling bit of bureaucracy for no reason, really, isn't it? And as you say, we're now, in this situation where we're probably going to have a squad that isn't quite there again. Assuming we get to the knockouts, it is baffling. And obviously, as you say, depending on where we get on transfers, you might be in a situation where there's certain players you're not going to be able to register again. Baffling.
Yeah, definitely. And we're gonna have a look at transfers next. But before we move on from the Dortmund game, and which we will talk about in wider context a bit later on as well, Sean, was it good to have Udogie back in the side as well? I thought he was excellent again.
Yeah, I've always liked Udogie. Always liked him. I think he doesn't get the credit for his. I think he defends well. I think if he's got an engine, he can get forward. I think he's an underrated passer, and I liked him when he inverted at times in that first half. He created that additional overload in the midfield. As I say, Dortmund's midfield, like they got some good players in there. That Nemeka, forget his first name. Fabian, is it Fabian Nemeka? I forget his first name. Felix Nemeka. Really, he's supposed to be really talented. I know we're linked with him tonight. I'm sure we'll talk about him in a minute. But I was massively unimpressed with him, and I thought, they got a big, strong, strapping midfield. I was like, maybe they're going to press, maybe they're going to make it difficult for the young guys. They didn't, but part of that was because I thought that Udogie gets forward, gallops forward. He offloaded the ball to the right players at the right time. I thought Udogie looked like he hadn't missed a trick, hadn't missed a beat in the last in his absence, and I'm really happy to have him back, because I think that in him, I think there is the chance that this guy, under the right coach and under the right system, could become a little bit like the Chelsea right back Reece James. I think he's got that same physicality. I think he's got that same sort of powerhouse sort of style to him. I just need to see a little bit more with the final product when he gets to the outside. But last night, that wasn't his role. Last night was more of an inversion. And I really liked it. I think he connected the dots. And I think he's also underrated, like I say, underrated defensively. People think that he can't defend. I disagree.
And Luke, the other final, we have touched on a little bit as well. Spence on the left wing, what did you make of that? And how did it were you surprised by that? And do you think that's something that we could see going into Premier League games, or do you think that was a one-off because there was no Tell?
Yeah, on one way, I was surprised, because obviously you would expect there not to have three fullbacks in the squad and one playing up on the wing. However, when you look at what Milani did after coming off the bench, you could fully understand why Frank was basically like, he's definitely not playing, so I've got to find a solution elsewhere. And I think the way that they actually operated was superb, because in a defensive position, Spence got back to left wing back, and Udogie almost became like a left centre back. And I think that worked really, really well. So I like Udogie as well. I think Udogie is a very good player. The problem is that he's not available enough, and it doesn't matter how good you are. And I think Reece James is absolutely incredible. But up until this season, he was never available enough. So he's not even in discussions about being a good player, because if he's there for 4 or 5 games a season, what's the point? So as long as he's available more, I think he will be an asset to this team for sure. And in terms of defending, I think, again, Sean's hit a nail on the head there. With regards to Spence is an unbelievable one-on-one defender, but actually he's not switched on when he's got to be in a defensive position and the ball's at, say, over on the right side and he's on the left. So there's different versions of defending, and Spence is 100% one-on-one the best in the squad. However, if it's being alert, Udogie made one interception in the first or second, I can't remember, I think the second half, when he intercepted it and then run all the way to right back, and then just added a bit of as Sean says, a bozo moment where he just gave the ball away. But actually, from a defensive point of view, that was superb. So I think that we've got a good mix of fullbacks and what they can bring and what they can offer. So I think it's great to have that. We just need a little bit more. And Spencer's got that sort of confidence, right? He's physically strong, he's quick, and he had the right back absolutely on toast. But it will be a bit of a different game if he's in the Premier League coming up against it. As an emergency left winger, hey, maybe, but I wouldn't want him there every single week.
You're not saying that ENIC are looking at that and going, we don't need to buy one now, no, Luke?
I'm trying. I know they watch, so I don't want to give them any excuses. Absolutely not. But I know we're joking around, but to say that we're having to, let's not forget, Spence is actually a right back. So we're having to play a right back at left wing. And then by the end of the game, we had a right back playing central midfield. Like, if that doesn't scream, we need players and we need them now, then what does?
A teenage centre back playing right back as well. His debut.
Exactly. When you and I think that's what people need to understand about that performance yesterday. Like what he had to offer in that squad, what the players had to be able to deliver. And also, I think what you've also got to think about is that there was a lot of players on that pitch that probably wouldn't have started if we had a full squad because of injuries. Xavi Simons had a severely bruised ankle. Archie Gray came straight back in after a couple of games out. So these are all factors that need to be considered if you're being balanced in your views and not saying, oh, it was a poor second half performance again, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And look, this is my dad, by the way, Sully 1952, has come in with, have we forgotten there's a transfer window going on, is Landry on holiday? So, I mean, Sean, it must have been a struggle for you this month trying to come up with videos, as you sort of mentioned earlier, and because there has not been that many links, but we have got a few more today, and two at West Ham. And I know Spurs made Somerville look like Messi when we played them, but I was quite surprised to see we were linked with Somerville. What did you make of that one?
The Somerville one?
Yeah.
I think the Somerville one is a real sad indictment of where we're at. I just did a video on this a minute ago. I feel like here's what I'll say. I don't hate the player. I think he's an okay player. I think he's a good player, but I think his numbers last season in the Championship, I think it was Leeds, was it? He was he's very good. But then Manuel Solomon was very good last season in the Championship, right? And so again with Leeds, comes back up, not deemed good enough for Tottenham Hotspur, take on guy, but he's lightweight. He's and we've shipped him out. Well, Paratici's taken him as one of his first 4 bits of business, which we have to talk about as well, because Paratici's doing more work for Fiorentina while still a Tottenham employee than he is doing for Tottenham. It's absolutely outrageous. But in terms of Somerville, this is what I just think it's madness. I said in December, I said, I've just got a feeling this January is going to be a massive disappointment. It's going to be a damp squib because I feel like the market's dry. The opportunity to do the business was in the summer. We didn't do enough of it. We missed out on the striker market then. It was moist. It was there for to take your chance, and we didn't do it. Obviously, yeah, the injuries are a nightmare. But if Tottenham Hotspur have identified their 1st to 6th identified profile that they want in, say, a left winger, for example, and for whatever reason, whether it's injuries, obscene cost, selling club not willing to let go, not wanting to come, not wanting to leave, or wanting to go to a bigger club, or whatever else, I think we can all identify who those top 6 profiles were, right? Players like Yandy Amandi clearly is one. He's not going to be allowed to leave. Malik Fofana's injured. He was obviously on the list. Savio's injured. He's obviously on the list. Keenan Yildiz is about to sign a new contract. He was always on the list. And then you start to get down to 5th and 6th. Solis doesn't want to leave Brugge, wants to win the title, and then he wants to move to a big guy, a big club. Someone like Iliman Ndiaye, even though he's not a left winger, but he can play out there. You know, all of these names that for whatever reason are not going to leave in January because it's just a difficult window. If you then start to find yourself going to number 7, 8, 9, wherever it is on the list, that suddenly we're looking at Somerville, and you're going to go and drop 25 million quid, which isn't a lot of money, but you're going to go and sign him on a 5-year contract because you've got nowhere else to go. It's madness. He is not any better than Manor Solomon or Odebear or Matisse Tell or any of these players, or Mikey Bloody Moore, right? Like it's ridiculous. He is a lightweight, sort of like half-pint version of any number of football clubs. Like Marcus Edwards is the same sort of standard at Burnley, right? There's no point. There's no point in going and getting him. And if we end up with him, and God forbid, I know the other guy we're going to talk about in a second, but the only people I want to see us linked to from West Ham is Jared Bowen, or maybe Fernandez, the midfielder. I think he's class, or possibly Paqueta, even though Paqueta I know is a bit of a troublemaker and wants to leave and he's downing tools anyway. But Somerville doesn't move the needle. I honestly think you might as well just like roll with what you have, keep the money, and then whatever situation we're in the summer. I don't believe we're in a relegation battle. I really don't. I think we'll be okay in that regard. But like I'm scratching my head going, if that is genuinely real, then for the love of God, if someone from Tottenham Hotspur is listening to this, I really hope that every single Tottenham fan, universally, on whatever channel, whatever forum, whatever platform you go on, please make it be known that Somerville is not good enough for Tottenham Hotspur. It's ridiculous.
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? It's just another 25, 30 million that just doesn't move us. As you say,
I'd rather give Thompson.
Is he better than Odegaard or Tell?
Yeah, I'd rather.
What's that, Bill? Sorry, mate?
I'd rather promote Thompson from the academy if we're going to do that. Like,
yeah.
What's the point? He's not an upgrade at all on any of those players.
Not an upgrade at all.
100%.
And you know what? In the summer, you'll be sitting there. We will all be sitting there going, "Well, there's more Deadwood we've got to get rid of." But he's stuck on a 5-year contract. He'll probably pick up 60 grand or 70 grand a week. It's absolute madness. There's absolutely no logic to it. And I honestly can't think of if he has been identified as a profile that we should be looking at, that's number 7 or 8 or 9 on the list, then you don't go and get number 7, 8 or 9, right? You go and figure out what your real number 1, 2 and 3 and all that stuff is. But also, no one talks, right? Everyone wants to throw mud towards the ownership, to Langer, to Vinay, to Thomas Frank, to the players. When are we going to start talking about Rob McKenzie? This donut is the head of our scouting.
For later in the show there, you preempted me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Okay, well, yeah, we'll save it.
The answer to your question, Sean, is in about 30 minutes, mate, is when we're going to...
Yeah, that's when, mate. Great minds or shit ones, I don't know.
Luke, there's been a lot of talk recently in the last couple of days, particularly since the Solanke season came out. A couple of French outlets posted it first, and then some English ones as well. Tell is desperate to go, this could explain the Somerville thing. Do you think that'd be a big mistake, letting Tell go on loan and then getting Somerville to replace him? For me, I don't think there's any sort of benefit to that whatsoever. I think I don't see the point of paying 25 million to get someone in who's not an upgrade. What do you reckon about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's been so many occasions where people are saying, yeah, we should sell him. And I'm like, yes, we should sell him if there is a replacement. So if you said, right, we're getting rid of Tell and we're bringing in, I know Savinho's injured, we're bringing in a Savinho, that's one thing. But if you're getting rid of Tell to bring in Somerville, no, what's the, as we've just said, what's the point in that? It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I thought that the sort of one thing that has been labelled is the level of player that we're targeting and going after as a standard is a lot higher than previously. I thought we'd come away from getting the 6th, 7th choice because that's absolutely pointless. I'll tell you what they should do. If they've looked at January and everyone for different reasons is saying, no, I'm sticking it out. I'm sticking it out here because let's not forget, Semenyo only went because of a release clause. Bournemouth wouldn't have let him go if they didn't have a release clause. That'd have been a summer deal as well. So if everyone that we're targeting is saying the summer, that's fine. So in February, March, go out and make the announcement that we're signing a player in the summer, or make that intent quite obvious, leak it to the press, whatever needs to happen. But I'm sick and tired of buying these sorts of players and then worrying how we're going to get rid of them in a couple of years. That's not what we should be doing, unless it's a sort of loan deal or something like that. But Tell for me makes sense going out on loan in so many ways. But again, it's based off of what comes through the door in the opposite direction. And I know people didn't fancy Brennan Johnson and didn't like him. And I understand why he was sold. However, he should have been sold once a replacement was ready and lined up to come in, because he probably would have been playing, or a replacement of his would have been playing yesterday. And that's what I think we need to get away from, is just basically selling or buying players for the sake of it. We need to make sure that there's a sort of plan in place, because otherwise you're just gonna become more unstuck. I think at the start of last season, we had like 7 left wingers. It was Solomon, there was Tell, there was Odebert, there was Son, there was Mikey Moore. And it's like, hang on a minute, like none of them are actually good enough to start, but we've got 7 of them. Like it was like, and we're going to get into the same sort of situation. If we keep buying mediocre players, we're going to get into a situation where we've got a bloated squad. None of them are good enough to be sold. So I'm on board with Tell going out on loan. I think it'll be great for him if he's starting week in, week out in his favourite position. But someone needs to come through the door, and I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of loans, because I think generally it stinks of the club not really having a strategy if you're having to bring players in on loan, unless you've got like significant injuries that you have to deal with. And January is probably the one time that you can excuse it. And one player that has been, touted as available for loan, Sean, is someone that you've spoken about a lot in Lookman, right? As a left wing option. Why do you think the club just don't seem to fancy that one? I know there's been stuff around his attitude and that type of stuff before, but what do you think it is?
I can't really figure out what it is from a playing perspective. I think he's got goals in him. He can take men on. He's a lot stronger than he was when he was last in the Premier League. He's put on about 25 pounds of muscle. He's fast. He can finish. He can cut on both sides. He can play off both sides. He can play in a 9 as well for Atalanta and he often does when they play in a back 3 model. If you're looking for people that are versatile, that can fit in a number of different roles, and that does the thing that we're currently not able to do, which is put the ball in the back of the net via our front 4, there really isn't any obvious playing profile reason to not want him. Look, maybe he's a donut. Maybe he is, right? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I speak to a lot of people in Italy on Twitter. There's what's the man's name? Jacko, that's it. Jacko, right? So Jacko obviously follows Italian football, and he says he's got a lot of friends that were from Atalanta, and he tells me that all those like bust ups with certain players and all this stuff, it's not really him that's the catalyst. He's just the sort of guy that's like, I don't want a problem with anybody. But if someone wants a problem, he'll say no problem, sort of thing. He's happy to have a row if someone wants a row, but it's not really him that's the catalyst for it. Obviously, he had a row on the AFCON as well, didn't he, with Osimhen? Where Osimhen decided, screw this, you're not going to pass to me. I'm going to, force my substitution or whatever. There's obviously something about the guy who's a bit of a donut, right? Like, or he's just volatile or whatever else. But that's where a loan does come in, right? Like, you get a loan, try before you buy. I think the guy would want to come in and prove himself. He definitely wants to get out of Dodge in Atalanta. I think he would come straight into our team, elevate us. And, it doesn't make any sense, especially when the loan fee that's probably going to happen when he goes to Turkey is like €1.5 million. And then whatever he's earning, I think he's earning like 100 grand a week or something, right, in euros. Like, it really, like, what are we doing here? And by the way, the other one was Raspadori, who left Italy, left Napoli to go to Atletico Madrid, and then now he's going back home, and that one only cost €1.5-2 million loan fee. Like, he's another player that comes in, immediately elevates us. And again, loan fee, pay your money, pay the guy, like, double the loan fee. Who gives a fuck? It's nothing. It's chump change. And you fill a hole, and then Tottenham can at least secure themselves from relegation, and then can see over the next 6 months whether or not these guys are capable of doing it in the Premier League. Like, the only question mark about Ademola Lookman for me is like, well, he's Prem experienced. I wouldn't call him Prem proven, because he didn't really do it at Fulham, didn't do it at Charlton, didn't do it at Leicester, didn't do it at Everton. But that was 4 years ago. And since then, he's kicked on, and he's certainly a big game player. He scored a hat-trick in the Europa League final. It doesn't make any sense to me. But listen, nothing the club does makes sense to me.
So speaking of that, one actually seems to be a goer rather than just a tenuous link. Luke, we're doing some business with West Ham, apparently, according to their top ITKs and our top ITKs. Swapping goalkeepers, which is, I don't think anyone would have seen coming. So they have a Danish goalkeeper called Mads Hermansen, who I don't know much about, to be honest with you, who is rumoured to be swapping McKinsky on loan for the rest of the season. He's Danish and apparently played for Bromby. I don't know if there was overlap there with Thomas Frank. I think there might have been, maybe. But what do you make of that? It's a bit one out of the blue, isn't it? So I think possibly the idea will be that Kinski is supposed to get game time. But I'm not sure if Kinski will even come in for Areola in the first place. But what do you make of that? It's a bit of a weird one, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it only makes sense from a Tottenham perspective if Kinski's guaranteed to be starting. And if he's guaranteed to be starting, you would expect that West Ham would want to have some sort of fee if they stay up where they could keep him, because otherwise it's not really helping. Areola,
if they do stay up, it's probably at the expense of us in the first place. Could be a real trouble.
That's true. I've got a lot of mates that are West Ham, and Areola's a decent keeper. I don't think he's great, but I wouldn't say from looking at it, I wouldn't say that Kinski's an immediate upgrade right now for him. Obviously, we haven't seen enough of Kinski to really suggest, but then it also comes back to exactly what we was discussing with the Champions League squad, and it depends on. Again, I always say this, it depends on what the vision is at the club. Like, are the clubs sitting there saying, we're just looking more longer term past this season. Kinski needs game time, get him out, get someone in. But then we've got a problem with registration in the Champions League. Is that a short-term worry? So it doesn't really make that much sense. And I think the other thing to this is that I know you don't have to only work on one deal at a time, but we've got so much to worry about as a squad. We should probably be worrying about them. And then maybe this deal can be done on the 30th of January once we've sorted out the left winger we potentially need, or the ball playing midfielder that we're getting in, or the striker, or whatever it is. I think we need to try and list out some of those priorities and get them over the line before we start worrying about all this player swapping. But one of the good things I felt was that we was targeting good players at really good clubs. And when we're now looking at number twos at West Ham's and it just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to me. It lacks what we keep asking for, which is ambition.
Maybe we need to go back to not doing business with West Ham again for a few years. Seems like
what happens, right? We sell them Kinski. He plays out of his skin for months, keeps them up, and we go down. What would happen then?
It's true.
But tell me that isn't something that would happen at Spurs.
That would happen.
Kinski would score a goal on the last game of the season that kept West Ham up and relegated us, right? He would come out a goal and score from a corner or something. It's just
he does like to come out, doesn't he? So you can see it.
Yeah. And he'd be the first one to then put in a transfer request. I'm not going down to the Championship with Tottenham. I'm going to go stay with West Ham. Fucking nightmare.
But do you know, we've had 4 months of planning since the summer window. We're getting to January, and the fruits of our labour are we're talking to West Ham about Somerville in the last week.
Of all the bridges, that we've rebuilt, right?
Yeah, can we do some other ones?
Yeah.
But also,
I'd rather that bridge still be very much burnt, if I'm entirely honest.
That's fine. Yeah.
That's not that important a bridge to fix. Can we go and fix the Man City bridge, please? Can we go and fix the Chelsea bridge? Can we go and fix the bridges any of the other clubs that Daniel Levy's pissed off? Please, no more West Ham, unless it comes in the guise of Jarrod Bowen, but that's not going to happen, is it? No
I think the scariest part of this whole thing is that nothing's happened really where we're looking at anything different than what we was looking at in the summer. Like, we could have had this pod late in the summer and we'd all be saying all of the same positions that we needed. So it wasn't like, we've had a massive injury that someone's gone, so now we've got to try and replace, or someone's just going through real bad form and they're nowhere near on it and we've decided, or a new signing that's just nowhere near worked out. We're saying exactly the players that we said in the summer we needed, we still need. So it shouldn't have taken this long to be able to get to the targets that we need, because everybody knew in the summer we needed a left winger. So why are we now sitting here saying everyone knew in the summer that Kinski probably needed game time? He was linked with going to France and everything else. So it's all like, none of this should be a surprise. It's not like, and it feels like at Tottenham, it's like, oh, that's a bit of a surprise. Let's wake up every day and it's kind of got a new idea as to what we're going to do. So yeah, I think that's the weird thing about it, that we all knew this. We could all see it. We've all said it for 4 or 5 months, and it don't look like that we put a plan in place to be able to go out and and get these players over the line.
No, I agree. And one other transfer link that came a little bit out of the blue, probably a player that no one would have necessarily spoke about, because probably they didn't realise that his contract was almost up or that we were interested, was Curtis Jones, which is quite an interesting one for me. I think Jones is a decent player, and you look at the stats, and the stats are actually very, very impressive. Probably more impressive than most of us realise. Sean, I'm sure you've spent some time wanking over the stats for Curtis Jones. What do you make of him?
Have you heard the news?
What's this? Oh yeah, I did see it. They've taken it away, haven't they?
FB refs were given a cease and desist letter on their stats. What am I going to do now? What am I going to do, people? I don't know where to get my info from. The Y Scout, it's not really like visual. It's not something you can just point to. You have to like build your own models. I'm not a model builder, Nothing. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I have looked at Curtis Jones. He's one of the last few players I got a chance to run through the FB refs. Good player, mate. Good player. Massively underrated, massively versatile, and can play right wing, can play midfield, can play 8-10, can play left back. Does a good job wherever he's asked to play. He's physical, he's strong, can take a man on, can contribute, output. Nothing to dislike. I'd be more than happy to see him come to Tottenham, 100%.
Yeah, and look, they're talking sort of 20 million. I think it's one of them that probably is not, it's not a hugely sexy signing, but it's as Sean says, he's a player that can fill in a lot of roles, and certainly in terms of, what we're asking for in midfield in terms of someone to actually pass the ball forward. He's at the very, very top end of those stats. What do you think of what do you make of Jones, mate?
Yeah, kind of reminds me of everyone saying in the summer that we should have gone and got Harvey Elliott, and I was like, absolutely not. Elliott is not a player that should be signing for Spurs. However, Jones, I think, is a player that we should be looking at, and even like, he's a sort of player, as you said, versatile. He's probably not someone that's going to be like, I need to be playing every single game. But then also you need to think of all of the other stuff that come with it. Homegrown, he's been at a top club. He understands what it means to have to go onto the pitch and win most weeks, which is what Spurs eventually in a few years might become. But yeah, I think he'll be a good signing. But I think the problem with it is that it's a sensible signing. And when was the last time we done sensible?
Yeah, I agree with that. And just before Bill jumps into what is going to be a regular feature of our midweek's shows, the Tavistock Exchange, just a quick reminder, please subscribe to Sean.
You're calling it the Tavistock Exchange? Love that.
Yeah, you like that.
Damn it, why didn't I think of that? Brilliant.
Yeah, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please get over to Sean at SpursTalkShow. I'm sure you're already subscribed to him. I think you're about 40k now, Sean, aren't you? So I'm sure you've got everyone in this chat already. And please get over to Luke at SpotliteOnSpurs as well. Really, really appreciate both of these guys. They've done a huge amount behind the scenes to support me and Billy. So please get over to those guys as well.
Right, so we're going to launch something that we've been had in the back pocket for a while. We've waited specifically till these guys are on to be the test runners of it. It is called the Tavistock Exchange. Basically, we're just going to have a little look at Tottenham. We're going to zoom out, look at Tottenham here, and we're going to talk about people whose stocks might be rising or falling. If you want to play along in the chat as well,
that's so good. Plus. I'm excited. This is so good.
You can put a little plus if the stocks are rising, and a little minus negative if the stocks are falling. We're going to take a look at everyone behind the scenes, basically, and talk about if their stocks are rising and their stocks are falling. Called the Tavistock Exchange, obviously. And we're going to do this on a regular basis. Would you like me to
get a little, just quickly, would you like me to make you a jingle on
I was going to say,
I knew you were going to say that.
A jingle.
We're going to need one, aren't we?
Definitely a jingle for this one.
Jingle is coming, without a doubt. I was going to mention that to you. And we're going to see how quickly things change, because at the moment, I think things are going up and down, probably trending downwards if you're an investor. But let's get into it then. So we're going to start off at the very top with the Lewis family. So just thinking about Tottenham at the moment, we'll go to you first, Sean. You can be our intro. You can be our first ever Tavistock Exchange question. The Lewis family right now, are their stocks rising or are they falling? Are they having a good time at Tottenham or a bad time at Tottenham? What would you say for the Lewis family?
For me, it's a sell all day long. I'm selling that one. Short selling it, mate. I'm short selling. I don't even own the stock. I'm short selling it, and I know I'm going to be able to buy it back cheaper later on. However, what I would say, Billy, I know you're a massive change for Tottenham frontman, but I do think that the numbers that turned up on Saturday for that versus the numbers of people that were booing Thomas Frank in the stadium, I think that the match-going fans are very different to the online fans with regards where their appetite for frustration sits. I think the match-going fans seem to be more frustrated with what they're seeing on the pitch rather than who's responsible for what's available on the pitch. So yeah, I would say sell all day long, but I'm not sure the match-going fans necessarily agree. I think the match-going fans probably have been they've got the old bait and switch. They fell for it, hook, line, and sinker because there was, like I said, it was 150, 200 people, whatever it was that was there on Saturday. Yeah, and I would have thought there was a lot more. I was really disappointed and surprised by the lower turnout for people that wanted to specifically vent their frustration at Vinay and at the owners versus the amount of people that were willing to boo and sing "You're getting sacked in the morning" to Thomas Frank. So I'm a seller, but sometimes you can get mugged by the ignorant. There's a term in the trading world called "mugged by the ignorant," which means you might be right on the valuation of the stock, but if everyone else thinks it's going up, then you can just stand in the way and you can get run over by the train of momentum. So I'm a seller, but I think at the moment their stock is okay.
And what do you think? Where do you think their heads at the moment? Do you think they're obviously we saw that video. We spoke about it on the show before. I spoke about it with Luke as well on his show. The video of her being confronted by a fan. Obviously, there's all kinds of questions and things you can go into for that one. Do you think there's maybe a sense that they might have bitten off more they can chew, or do you think they're sort of happy to play along with where they are? Where do you think their heads at the moment, Sean?
I think Vivian Lewis got a very tapered down version of imagine what would have happened if Daniel Levy walked through that concourse. I think Vivian was probably a little bit shell shocked by the fact that someone would say that or behave that way. I know that guy, Trevor, lovely guy, sweet as a nut normally. Obviously angry, right? But I don't think he was particularly disrespectful. I think if he was talking to a man, it wouldn't have been a problem. I think the reason why some people had a problem with it was because it was a female. But listen, this is the road that they've walked, and this is the path that they think that they're gonna come in and sweet talk people by saying here's 100 million quid or whatever. I don't think that the truly invested fans are going to tolerate that kind of paying lip service to what's really required. And I think that she's probably shocked by that, and I think it might have took her by surprise, but this is what you signed up for. So, this is what you expect more of it, or get out of the way, But listen, I think these guys are driven by profits and are driven by their outcome at the end. I'm not sure it's for them. I think that they will eventually, those sorts of things will start to weigh on them, and I think they'll probably sit there and realize that Daniel Levy was the bearer of a hell of a lot of the accountability, when in reality a lot of these things were from her father. I'm not sure it will be for them for too much longer. If they keep coming to the games and they keep and things don't change on the pitch, I think eventually the tide will push back towards Enoch. And I don't think they'll like it.
I completely agree. And before we come on to Luke, chat, give us a plus or minus whether you think the Lewis family stock's rising or stock falling. And Luke, before I ask you about what your feelings are, there was a story this week that the son-in-law, pictured there of the beard, I think, had a lunch with Thomas Frank, Vinay, and Langer this week. What do you think was the topic of conversation at that lunch? That was before the Dortmund game.
Yeah, I don't think Frank's been told you've got a game to save yourself or anything like that. I think that it's very much just been business as usual, and they're trying to block it out. I think that sacking a manager so early on in the reign is going to look quite negative in terms of what they keep saying they want to build. Just going on to what Sean was talking about, I've heard some people say that apparently with obviously what's happening in America with the World Cup, that actually in terms of value and in terms of eyes on football, Tottenham Hotspur could be at its highest ever value just after that World Cup, because you'll have what will be a World Cup fever over in America. Maybe you might bring some more people involved in it. You might then get some extra people that want to invest in it. So it'd be very interesting to know whether over the last year or so they've been trying to make the club very, very neutral, so that potentially people can come in and buy it, and they're kind of at a neutral level playing field. You've got Thomas Frank, who we all thought would become in and be a steady manager, not going to have anything too magnificent or too negative in terms of what happens. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite worked out, but it'd be interesting to know whether that World Cup is a big point of them selling and getting new investment in football. So I wonder whether that would be part of their thinking. As I say, you guys are going to have far more knowledge on it than me, but apparently that's what some people are coming up with, a little bit of a conspiracy, shall we say, about what's happening here.
And Luke, when they took over, I'm sure everyone will probably agree there was a short-term rise. You know, people were a bit optimistic at the beginning. Where do you think they're sitting now? What have you made of their first period of their first half a season in charge of Tottenham? What have you made of some of the things that have happened in that time?
Well, I mean, you just got to run through the list of things that have happened over the last few months, and you've got a chairman that was here for 25 years has gone. The manager's come in and looked like he could be gone. Director of football's been signed and gone. Like it's been absolutely chaotic. So I don't think it's been a fantastic start. However, if it is a brand new remit, then maybe they're just trying to iron out the creases that they've stepped in and came across, because obviously Levy going was a man that kind of micromanaged absolutely every facet of the football club, and then it's almost like we've potentially gone a bit too far on the other end, which Spurs have done in terms of managers as well. We go from one style and that don't work out, so we go to the complete opposite. So maybe we've done that again as well in the boardroom with the amount of changes that there's been taking place. But I always feel like with Spurs, we're trying to reinvent the wheel, and we're trying to do things a bit differently, and we're trying to just look at what all the big clubs and what all the top clubs are doing. They're signing people that are very, very good at their jobs, that have got proven track records in doing what they're doing, and they get them in and ask them to do what they've done. Whereas what we do is we get a Thomas Frank, who's known as a defensive manager, to come in, and we want you to play attacking football. That's not what's got me here. So why would you now ask me to do that? And I feel like every single time we see any positions that come available, it's a person that's stepping up from a role that they're doing into a bigger role that they haven't really done. And it's like, why are we not just employing people that are very good at the jobs they're doing and ask them to do the jobs they've done? And then we might start seeing some results. But a lot of the stuff that the guys have brought in, it's more longer term, right? You're not going to see like investment in youth. You're not going to see that right immediately right now. You're going to see that in a few months. So we kind of everyone said when they came in they'd give them a year to see what's happening. Now 6 months down the line, I don't think they've got more people on board, let's put it that way. Yeah,
completely agree. And just a bit of breaking news there that you might have seen on screen. Looks like Bergvar's going to be out for 3 months, which has just been confirmed now, which is not great, but we'll talk about that when we come onto the players a bit later, I'm sure. Connor, Lewis family, falling or rising, would you say?
Well, it won't surprise you that I'll be saying they're falling. Definitely sell as well. Back to sort of Sean's earlier point, I want them to fucking sell. That'd be good. Yeah, I mean, look, I think they're an absolute shambles. I think they're a joke. Sean and I have discussed this at length. I have a different view of Levy perhaps compared to him, but I think where we probably land in the middle has always been, the bigger issue has been Daddy Joe. I don't think the kids have suddenly had this change of heart and suddenly become huge Tottenham fans. And I think as it was being pitched, they saw the parade and they thought, wow, we really want a bit of that. I think what it was they no longer wanted Daniel Levy to free ride when they knew that they had to put in a bit more cash, and they wanted to have the whole cash cow to themselves. And I think they'll ultimately look to buy Levy out of his share so that they can do that. So I think it's an absolute priority for this football club if they want to get to where we want them to get to, is that we need a new ownership. Anytime you ask me this question, the answer will be falling, I'm guessing. And look, I think with them as well, I think their value of the club might start falling as well, because to the extent that we continue to struggle like we are in the league, finished 17th last season, currently sitting 15th, are we 14th, 15th? That will impact their valuation as well, because when you look at big six football clubs, one of the reasons they sell at a premium is because they consistently get into Champions League and European places, which bring in extra revenue, and therefore you sort of apply that valuation to that revenue multiple. And if Tottenham continue to struggle, it is going to impact that valuation for them as well. So yeah, definitely falling, mate.
Sean, potentially a little bit more nuance to this one, because we have had a little bit of movement in the last couple of weeks. We've had a public statement. We haven't had a video, which we used to get back in the day, but we have had some words. What about Vinay, Sean? What do you make of him right now at this current moment? Is he rising or falling, would you say?
Again, I think the program note that he put out, I think to a lot of fans will be an uptick if we're playing the Stock game, But I personally see through it. I think he's. I don't rate him. I don't trust him. I think he's had a couple of opportunities to make some tough, difficult decisions, and he hasn't made them. I don't think he's cut out to be a number one. I think he's probably a very good number two. But in this game, if you want to be number one, you have to be willing to make difficult decisions. And thus far, I've only seen him make cowardly decisions, really. I think they've cost us. They've cost us massively. So for me personally, I'm a seller, massive seller. But then I wasn't a buyer when he first came in. I didn't rate him, and I still don't rate him now. But I think a lot of people will gobble up they'll gobble up the kind of the information. The way he's very good at writing down, or communicating things. But talk is cheap, right? And I think that this window's been a demonstration of a lack of preparation. When he says things like, it's business as usual, and losing Paratici is, doesn't matter who it is, we're fine, we're going to carry on, yada, yada, yada. For me, no, sorry. Business shouldn't be as usual. Business needs to change direction, and you maintaining like it's not a problem, don't worry, we're going to carry on. To me, that's a problem. And I don't think he's the guy that's going to get us through the murky waters.
Yeah. And Connor, do you, obviously, before we go into rising or falling, obviously we will talk about Thomas Frank, he is coming up in this, obviously. How much of a driving force do you think Vinay is behind the reason that Thomas Frank is still in the job at the moment?
I think he's the biggest driving force for that, for sure. I think part of it is probably because of the Arteta thing, right? In terms of, showing patience there, and that worked, but that could be the exception rather than the rule. So I think part of it is that, but I also think part of it is a little bit of a self-preservation as well, because to Sean's point, we look at some of the decisions that Vinay has been responsible for, and look, I'm sure he's doing some good work in terms of building out his executive team for all the things we don't care about.
Doing very good. Doing very good with the women as well. The women's team, flying.
Yeah. The women's team has done well. Chief communications officer, all of these various hires. I'm sure they're all great. But he massively bottled the Paratici Langer thing. We've all spoken at length about the fact that they should have, as soon as that summer window finished, sacked Langer, not brought Paratici back, and hired one sporting director. So that's a massive, massive minus in terms of falling. Mark Nevin's just said it. That whole Levy love fest was nauseating beyond belief. And them two were sitting there, really relating to the working class football fan by talking about what red wine they like and all of that type of shit. So yeah, I think it's definitely falling, but I do think he's definitely the driving force behind keeping.
How did that bit, by the way, pass the post edit? Did nobody at Tottenham go, do you know what, guys? No disrespect, but I don't think Tottenham fans give a shit if you both like sharing a nice bottle of rouge. Like, maybe we should cut that bit out. It just looks
broad shoulders, weren't they, as well? They were talking about the broad shoulder. Oh, it's very cringy.
It's so cringy. So it looks a bit public school boy. Maybe that's not really what we're trying to go for here. No, go on, stick it in, keep it in there.
That is one of my big worries at the moment. Is that we've sort of been stripped of anyone that's sort of Tottenham behind the scenes. Everyone in is some sort of corporate bod hires, and no one really has got a sense of what Tottenham is anymore. And Luke, I'll come to you. I'm sure you'll probably agree.
You muted yourself, Bill, halfway through, mate. Still muted.
Here we go. I'm sure you'll probably agree with us, Luke. But What do you make of Vinay? Falling or rising at the moment?
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's the jury's definitely still out. That's for sure. But I think you're all blaming the wrong people and things. I think it's that sofa, because every time someone sits down on that sofa, someone gets binned off. So just get rid of that sofa. Vinay and Levy having a big cuddle and telling everyone how much they love each other, and all of a sudden one leaves. And
This
then,
is what he needs. An Elton John,
yeah.
one of these bad boys. You know,
And
once
then-
you sit in
and
this, you
then
don't
after-
go anywhere. You know?
After a couple more weeks, we then have Langer sitting down with Paratici and them cuddling, saying we can't wait to do this together. We're all in it as a team. And then all of a sudden, Paratici's leaving as well. So I think it's that sofa. We need to get rid of that and start with something fresh. But
I'll pass that on to my my mate Ben Haynes, who does those interviews, and I'll tell him to burn the sofa if possible. If possible.
But yeah, no, I agree. I heard with everything that Sean was saying and you guys were saying. 100%. I think the letter, everyone wants more communication from the club, and we've probably been quite poor on that just as a club for years. To be honest with you, the communication, every single piece of communication that's come out, it's come out either poorly timed, or it's been at some way some sort of dig at fans or whatever. So I think some people will jump on that, but words don't really mean much. You need to deliver on the pitch. And if he'd gone and signed, or we'd gone and signed 2 or 3 top players in this window, then everyone would have a different opinion. So let's see what happens. But all the chopping and changing is certainly not looking good. And I do think that some of the big decisions haven't been made, and we've chose to kind of look the other way. The Langer one being the prime example.
I'm just going to pause slightly. Really important message there that's on screen if you're watching. Hope for Harley, which is a really important campaign that's going around at the moment. A Spurs family campaign behind it. A little boy called Harley is a massive Spurs fan. His idol is James Maddison, a bit like me. You know, I love a bit of Maddison, but really, really important story. So thank you very much for bringing that up, Sonny. What we'll try and do, we'll put the links in the chat in a minute. Please go and support them, because they are in desperate need of financial support to get the treatment that their poor boy needs at the moment. So really important bringing that up. So thank you very much for that. We'll definitely put the links in the show in a second. But moving on to, you know, we mentioned them a lot. Again, I don't think there'll be any surprises here which way this one's going. But dumb and dumber themselves at the moment, Paratici and Langer. I mean, I'm perplexed personally that, you know, we're so deep into a critical January window, absolute critical January window. And there's, you know, we've signed Conor Gallagher, which is good. Sousa, obviously we've lost him, but I'm sure he'll be announced at some point during this week. But nothing else. I mean, Luke, what is going on with these two at the moment? What is, you know, do they realise the sort of situation that we're in? And again, in the chat, if you could let us know whether you're plus or minus, stocks falling and rising for these two. I don't think there'll be any surprise with this one. But Luke, what is going on with these two at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a strange setup anyway, wasn't it? Because they're just so different in their styles and how they operate. Obviously, one being very communications based, and obviously like Langer is obviously all down to the sort of data and everything else. And you can just see that they would never agree on certain players. You could just tell it from the very get go. I actually said before this was announced, I think Langer would be the guy to bring in for your under 21s and your under 18s and let him manage that, and Paratici would just do all the first team. And then they kind of done that, but in the same role. And it was just like, I think everyone could tell from the get go that actually the way it was put together, it wasn't going to work. And yeah, as you said, look, one's leaving, and has actually made more signings at his new club than he has with us. But we all know what it's like. As soon as you hand in your resignation at work, your brain shuts off. You're already gone on holiday there. You're on holiday mode and you're focusing on what's next. So Paratici isn't really going to really be caring what's going on at Spurs, although he has told us that he's fully behind the project and fully believes in it, which is convenient considering he's leaving it. But also, a lot of these, like as a top club, you just move him on and get someone else in, or deal with it internally, whatever you need to do to keep someone around. And it was almost like we begged him to say, please stay just till the end of the window. And it just a lack of plan again. Like, although saying that, he's only been here a couple of weeks, so why would you be planning for his successor? So just everything we do at this club there has to be some sort of circus around it. And I think that in a way it could be a positive, because it means if he goes, surely Langer's not the guy to be the sole person in that position. So would he then go and we bring someone in who's actually going to go and run this club correctly? But again, that's a bit more hope than optimism, to be honest with you. But I think that their stock is definitely down at this moment in time.
And Connor, I mean, I doubt you disagree, but what do you make of these two, the way they're operating in January at the moment?
Just an absolute pair of clowns, aren't they? Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, why they're even in a job, I don't know. But we are where we are. But I mean, to be honest, this was part of the reason, for me being so behind the protests and not giving ENIC 2.0 or whatever you want to call it a little bit more leeway, because this is just an utter shambles, going into this January window with this situation. And, as everyone has said, why Paratici is still even here, apparently working, I don't know. It's just an absolute nonsense. But I think the worrying thing is look, I've always had the view that I think Paratici is slightly overrated anyway by some corners of our fan base. I think, to be honest, when you look at his signings, there's a few decent ones, but there's a lot of meh, some poor. I think when he oversaw that, I mean, he was responsible for overseeing the manager search that ended up with Nuno, where we went through sort of 6 or 7, and Gattuso was in there, and there was that whole no to Gattuso over social media, and that was a shambles. Obviously, we did get Conte in the end, but that was by sort of a last throw of the dice with a lot of money. So I'm not going to cry any tears that he's going, to be honest, but my worry is that Langer is staying, and I pray that hopefully they get rid of Langer as well.
And Sean, rising or falling, I'll double team DOFs. What do you make of them at the moment?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have been saying. Unimpressed with the fact that they were both at the club at the same time. I've been unimpressed with both of them generally. Unimpressed from a personal perspective with Johan Lang's ability to utilize the media to get some stories going, because that's really making my job difficult. And that's so far. I would love to see a clean sweep. I also have to sit there and say, right, like when you hear Vinay saying I've said this a few times, so forgive me for anyone who's heard it before, but like when I sit there and hear that Vinay say, that Thomas Frank was the outstanding candidate of 30 people, that he ticked more boxes on our criteria list. Okay, I want to know what are the criteria? Like what boxes did he tick that the other 29 managers didn't? Who created the list? And like, why
Who was on the list as well, Sean? Who were the other 29?
was on the list?
I mean,
Yeah,
Rachel Reeves, Mr. Blobby, fucking Zippy. God.
I don't think they'd have been on there. They might have ticked a few more boxes. So I think it would go down a little bit. His name? He was the best Thomas. He was the best surname Frank. That we had to make sure we had them too. So.
Easiest accent to recreate. I don't know, but like it begs the question: who is it that's driving these plans? Right? Who is it that thought that that's signing a deal for Matisse Tell? As much as I think he might be a good player, but who was it that decided that in January of last year or whenever it was done, that we basically have to make that deal happen regardless of the situation? That as far as I've heard, that the truth is that the only deciding factor was whether Matisse Tell wanted to sign for Tottenham. That was the thing that turned the option into the obligation or whatever else. Like absolutely insane, right? And so if like who is it? I know you said I mentioned his name earlier, Rob McKenzie. Like, but I'm guessing that's coming. We have to talk about him. How involved is he? Is he the guy that takes the scouting options and brings them to the director of football? Who is it that gets who gets the nod on these things? Like, it looks awful. It looks awful on so many levels. And whoever it is that's building these criterias and these plans, whoever it is, if it's Paratici or if it's Johan Lang or if it's Vinay or if it's someone else beneath them, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that, like you just said a minute ago, that Bergvall is out for 3 months, right? And we've lost 4 other people in January to injuries. Have you seen the size of Xavi Simons' leg, his ankle? It's madness.
Yeah, that's awful.
And yet there is nobody. Every day I go for transfer links, and all I can see is people that are coming are more likely to leave the club, like Tell or Dragusin, when we have no outfield players available anyway. And the players that are coming in are players like Somerville or some donut called Hernandez. What's his name? The goalkeeper, Mads Hermansen. You know, ex-Leicester goalkeeper. We're doing it. What are we doing here? Whoever it is, and Johan Lang is the guy who's in charge right now because Paratici's on his holly pops. Like, what are we doing? It's infuriating. So to summarize, if there's a sell button, then I'm selling it, even though I don't know. I sold it a long time ago on Johan Lang. So I want to sell more. Sell me more.
And when I made these slides a couple of days ago, this one was was tanking, as they might say in the industry, but might have had a small change last night. Let's see. Luke, how big is that result for Thomas Frank, and does it change anything long term? Is he still going to be sacked in the short term? As lots of everyone on Sunday night was saying he's gone in the morning. It didn't happen in the end. He's got a big win over Dortmund, a really impressive win as well. Has anything changed with Thomas Frank, Luke?
I think it's changed on the basis that if he lost yesterday and then potentially lost against Burnley, that could really spell the end. But I don't think it's changed in terms of, I don't think he's now, okay, he's now got the job and he'll stay in for until the summer. We could be looking back in 2 months' time saying that was his moment. That was the moment. That was the turning point and everything else. But I've always said it with him. It's always going to come down to that playing style. And unless it adapts and unless it changes, or unless it basically wins every single week, it's only a matter of time before the fans get on his back. So it's very, very difficult. But there's some huge games coming up. Obviously, if we go and we have a defeat to Burnley, say, it's getting really tight down at the bottom there. So I think he's bought himself some time to be able to get it right. Whether he will, I don't know. So I'd say some probably think that definitely rose. I see others that, as I said, were slagging off him, saying that it was all his fault that the second half went the way it did, which I think is unfair. So I think it's still neutral, possibly slightly up, just on the basis that we can't sit here and everyone probably predicted a loss. And then when we get a win, go, yeah, but it weren't that good. Like that's we all expected the loss. So we've done it to PSG as well. He got absolute slaughtered from some sections of the fan base, and we was expecting it to be 5, 6, or 7 before the game even kicked off. So I think there needs to be a bit of balance there. But I think all of these questions, they're the right things to be asking. But the facts are, unless we bring players in, this is all of these people are going to be restricted. And even going back to what you're just saying about the scouting team and things like that, we had this last year under Ange. All of these players that were signed, Ange has never signed young players. All he ever does is bring in experienced players to play in his system. That's all he's ever done. We've gone and thrown loads of young 19-year-olds at him, and then we sit here and blame him for the signings that have come in. No, this is what the club do. The manager doesn't sit there and go, "These is my list. Go and sign them." They go, "Archie Gray, would you take him?" "Well, yeah, he's better than what we've got." "All right, yeah, we'll take." Like, it's not a manager that puts together these lists. So I think we need to actually get some signings in to help him out, because otherwise any manager that comes in is gonna struggle a bit, especially with the injuries, and if they're going to be as long term as Bergvall's.
And Sean, what do you think that result was done for Thomas Frank? Has it kicked the can a bit down the road, or has it bought him a bit more time, in a meaningful way? Or are we just going game to game without any really clear no one's really being decisive?
Yeah, no, I think that Vinay's got himself a bit of a breathing space there, because I do think that there was that sort of difficult decision that he could have made and he didn't, which was, as I said before, like when he saw that the Change for Tottenham protests that were definitely publicised and he would have been aware of them was like fairly muted. And then all the 17,000 South Stand people booing Thomas Frank. He could have, like, part of his manifesto was to build bridges with the fan base, right? But that doesn't mean necessarily listening to the fan base. It just means trying to get us all back together. But he could have made the easy decision and sacked Thomas Frank. He didn't, and part of the reason why I don't think he did is because if you do sack Thomas Frank, especially with this 30-man exhaustive list that he was part of the sort of the shaping of, then that's obviously you're admitting 6 months in to your own job that part of the thing that you were a part of has already failed. So I think he wants to give Thomas Frank as much time as possible because it will show. How do I say this? If he sacks him, it's an admission of failure on his part and everyone else around the team. So he doesn't want to make that decision. So I think that the result against Dortmund has given him the lifeline to allow Thomas Frank to stay again. If he loses against Burnley, I think it becomes very difficult again. But if we do go and beat Burnley, then again, Thomas Frank gets a bit more time. I also think that there's the difficulty of where do you go next? Because you're not just going to sack Thomas Frank. You're also going to be sacking a lot of that coaching staff, I'd imagine. Maybe Heitinger wouldn't be, but like the rest of them probably would be. People like Cochrane who came with them, all those guys. So it becomes very expensive. You then got to go and not just bring in if you're going to wait until the summer anyway, because that's when the market opens up a little bit for new managers. Then in the meantime, you've got to bring in not just a temp, but also a temp coaching staff as well. It becomes complex, complicated, and expensive. And right now, I don't think he wants to do it. So I think that the result against Dortmund gives him a lifeline. But and he's going to sit there with his fingers and bollocks crossed that he's going to get if he gets the 3 points against Burnley, then and look, let's be entirely honest, right? The performances are getting slightly better. The results haven't got better, but the performances, at least in moments, 45 minutes here and there, have become slightly better. And so I think that on that basis, I think that Thomas Frank probably gets. Well, we'll find out on Saturday, but. I would say if we get a draw or a win, I think Thomas Frank gets a reprieve. If we lose, I think it ratchets up again the pressure. But I still think that Vinay is going to stick with him. And I'd love to ask you guys, not to. I know you guys have got to move into other directions with the show, but just quickly, would you respect Vinay more for listening to the fans and sacking Frank, or for sticking to his plan and saying we're trying to work through this choppy period? And I'm not sure. I think I actually would respect Vinay more, probably for believing in his plan and sticking to it.
I'd respect that more, Sean, if he also came out and said it now. Because at the moment, you're in this period of sort of uncertainty, aren't you? Where we all think it's game to game almost, don't we? Or we're speculating whether it's going to be to the end of the season. If he did the, which I know ended up not actually happening, but how Jim Ratcliffe came out and said, look, we're going to stick with Amorim because we know that and obviously Amorim slagged them off too much and it just didn't quite work. But if Vinay came out and just said, look, we are, backing Frank, then I think you could give him a bit of respect. But at the moment, to me, I don't know whether he's
Isn't that what Thomas Frank's been saying?
He wants to admit that failure. Sorry,
hasn't Frank always been saying in the press conferences, "Look, I feel backed"?
He has, yeah, but the they haven't come out and said that, have they? I think it's. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time a manager's come out and said they've got the full backing of the board, and then the next weekend they get binned. I mean, look, for me, in terms of the question of the sort of rising and falling, I think after the West Ham game, it was a BP oil spill, and it was an absolute shocker for him. He's got a little bit of a reprieve with the result. I personally am not in a desperate rush to sack him because I don't want this lot, given they picked him out of 30 before picking the next manager. And so, and who's available as an interim? You bring back, Harry Redknapp, who's 80, or God knows who's going to do it on an interim basis. So, I would probably give him a little bit more time, and then hopefully we hire a sporting director who can then pick the next manager, who isn't any of the current mob. So for me, I'm not in a rush. But yeah, I mean, Sean, I think you probably would say that, as you said. I mean, we said that Vinay didn't take the easy decision, took the easy decision on Frank and on Paratici and Langer.
Right.
The easy decision on Frank would have been to sack him because that's what the fans were demanding. So actually, on this one, perhaps he is taking a more difficult decision.
But would it have been? Because a lot of the fans that are saying sack him are all saying Xavi Hernandez and things like that. What happens if the actual answer was Harry Redknapp at 80, who's never ever going to come back and manage it? Like what if the options were Ryan Mason?
Xavi Hernandez into this football club with these players. Like people that are saying bring in Xavi obviously don't understand what sort of football he wants to play.
But that's what they're saying. That's what some fans are saying. This is what the answer, and obviously that is the dream. And go and throw loads of money at him and everything else. But the facts is that what if he has had them conversations like most clubs do, and actually any top managers said no, and then our option is Ryan Mason. So actually, the easy option isn't to sack Frank, is to just stick by him. And I think Sean's right. And I kept saying this. A lot of people are saying, no, actually, Frank was Levy's appointment. Well, that looks bad on the board because you knew you were sacking him and then you allowed him to make such a massive, massive decision for this football club. Or it's on the current board and they then can't be seen to sack someone 6 months into a reign that they said they were going to fully back and everything else. So I think they lose either way, but I don't see... Everything can always get worse. Of course it can. But that defeat to West Ham was so bad that unless we go on an absolutely disaster run, how bad can it get worse than that? Because that team, they can't win, they can't score, they can't stop conceding, and they go and absolutely batter us. So can it get much worse? And also, is when I look at that going, February, we've got so many tough games. Are the fans half going to understand him losing upon losing upon losing? And I think that the summer window is where you're going to get the players in. We need to have a complete restructure, and it's hard to do it mid-season. So I think Sean's right. He's going to do exactly what happened last year with Ange. They are going to give him exactly as much as they possibly can to keep him until the summer and then review it. And I think they've done the same thing with Ange last year.
And I think in answer to the Vinay question, I think I'd be all on board with that as long as... they backed him in the bloody transfer window, but they're not doing it. Like, what is going on? If they're going to say, right, he's our man, go and buy him some players. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? You're throwing him to the slaughter. Like, it's just really frustrating. Really, really frustrating.
And as fans, we do it, and I'll do it, and we'll all do it in YouTube, right? But talking about listening to the fans, if he would have listened to the fans, we'd have gone and signed Harvey Elliott, who he can't play a minute at this moment in time, hasn't played a minute for Aston Villa because he weren't good at. So it's all right us going, I tell you what, I'll pick that player out and he's turned out to be pretty decent. Why can't our scouts? Well, you also picked out 20 other names that summer. 19 of them turned out to be absolutely useless, but you've only used that one exception to your rule because that suited. So I don't want him to be listening to us, because if he is, give me £8 million a year and I'll run the football club and be the manager. And at least that way it might go wrong, but I'll be rich. So I don't think you should listen to fans.
Yeah, I agree.
And right, just to keep you updated then, there is the link there in the chat and it's on the screen as well for the Hope for Harley campaign. Please go and give it some support because it's really, really hugely important. And we're going to wrap up in the next 10, 15 minutes. We've got one more stock exchange to get through, and then we've got some awards to hand out as well, which I'm going to ask the guys to give me a hand with. I'm going to come on to the players just to finish off. I'm going to do something a little bit different. What I'm going to ask the three guys for is one player whose stocks are rising and one player whose stocks are falling. There is the team that came on yesterday. Obviously, we've got some breaking news that Bergvall is looking like he's going to be injured for 3 months. I believe that's coming out of Sweden at the moment. And not great news for their World Cup campaign. They're in the playoffs, aren't they? So probably a massive blow to Graham Potter there. He's already probably lost to Kulusevski as well. Graham Potter was there last night. Actually, wasn't he, in the stands with Kulusevski? He's now probably lost both of those players for the playoff, I'm guessing. But I want one player whose stocks are rising and one player whose stocks are falling. If you could do that in the chat as well. Current players, stocks are rising, stocks are falling. We'll come to you first, Connor. I want one player whose stocks are rising, one player whose stocks are falling at the moment.
Stocks are falling's easy. We spoke about it a little bit earlier, Muani for sure.
He's going to come up in one of our awards later as well, definitely.
Yeah. I think everyone's probably going to end up agreeing with that one. Stocks are rising for me. He had a little dip against West Ham because I thought he was pretty horrendous against West Ham. But he had a brilliant second half against Villa, and I thought he ran the game yesterday. That's Xavi Simons. I thought he was great again yesterday. So and played through injury, and I loved the way he got stuck in, and also cheering the crowd up and all of that type of stuff, playing with a smile on his face. So yeah, Xavi Simons, stocks are rising for me.
Sean, rising and falling, who is it?
Rising is going to be my man, Matisse Tell. I think every time that man gets substituted, the fans at the game boo. They're not happy. They applaud him off. They respect him. And I think he's a player that will, if given the right time and given the access to minutes, I think he will continue to get better. I think people that have written him off, he's 19 years old, right? He's or 20 years old. He's younger than Dane Scarlett. And people are writing this kid off. It's mental. and I think he's someone that will prove to be a decent member of the squad if he's still here. So he's my stock rising. My stock falling. I'm going to go for stock falling. I'm going to go for Vicario. I don't know if this is reasonable or otherwise. I don't know. I think Vicario, for me, I think the fans have lost patience with his irregular.
Quite a few of them in the chat as well, Vicario.
Is Vicario in the chat as well, is it? Yeah. For me, I think Vicario is just is a player that most Tottenham fans wince a little bit every time we play it back, and we overly work him or overly rely on him. I don't know why we haven't learned our lesson every single. Look, he's a great shot stopper. The more time he has to think about things, the worse he gets. The less time he has to think about things, the better he is. I don't think you can rely on people that are mentally unstable in a position like a goalkeeper. I think you need people that are calm, and I think you need people that have composure, and he has none of the above. So, he's my stock faller. You're on mute again, Billy.
On mute, Bill.
Bloody hell, I'm shambles at the moment. My stocks are falling. Luke,
I was going to say your stocks are falling.
Rising and falling for the players.
In terms of falling, completely agree on the two selections. And soon as Moani was mentioned, I thought, right, Vic will be my go-to next one. So absolutely been trumped there. Moani, I think, is more fell than falling. That's absolutely rock bottom for me. And I'm going to go with rising. I'm going to go with Solanke, just because I think that this fan base have kind of been very split on Richie, very effective in front of goal, but very ineffective in so many other avenues. Moani showed so much promise, and obviously has come unstuck there as well. And I think obviously it was only one game, but I feel like Solanke's able to give us a bit of balance up there, hold on to the ball a bit better, and almost bring the whole team together as well. So I feel like a lot of fans kind of see that yesterday and are like, that's what we need going forward. So sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. A lot of people were slagging off Solanke last year because we was obviously playing very attacking, and he wasn't scoring that many goals, but he brings a lot to the team. So I think that he will keep on rising. But I agree with Sean. Me and him agree very much on Oliver and Tell. I think you've got two very, very good players there. I think they need to be managed correctly. I think you need to get experience around them, get a good player in that they can learn from. I don't think both can develop at Spurs. I think one of them will need to do it away from Spurs, either on loan or they go permanently. But I think both of them in 3-4 years' time, I can see them both being very, very good players. So I think both of their stocks hopefully keep rising too.
Brilliant. And before we wrap up with a couple of awards, please go and support the guys' shows, Spotlight on Spurs and Spurs Talk Show, Spurs 5 and many others. Have been such a massive help to us. But we're just going to wrap up in the next 5 minutes with some couple of awards I want help given out as well, taking into account everything that we just listened to there, thinking about Tottenham as a whole. Going to start off with Employee of the Week. Now, this doesn't have to be someone that we just mentioned there. Could be anyone Spurs related. Could even be a fan. Could be someone from social media. Could be anyone Spurs related. I'm going to kick us off with Spurs Employee of the Week. I'm going to go David Bentley. I don't know if anyone saw David Bentley last night. Videos of David Bentley. But he did an appearance at the Elbow Rooms before. And then he was absolutely buzzing in the South Stands. Giving the young boys, the OS, a run for their money and getting the chance going. So I'm going David Bentley as my Employee of the Week. Sean, who's your Tottenham Employee of the Week? Who's had the best week at Tottenham? That's all. I was going to go for Byfield as well. That was my other shout, but I thought,
Yeah, I'll give it to him then.
Yeah.
No, I'll give it to him. I'm going to steal it. I'll go for Byfield. I thought, brilliant for him. What a night for him. He's going to be a superstar, allegedly. People keep telling me he's the new Ledley King. Big unit of a guy. He's just turned 17. To play 20 minutes or whatever it was in the Champions League. I mean, unbelievable stuff. So congratulations to him. He's my Employee of the Week.
And chat, let us know your Employee of the Week. We've got Viv Lewis, the security guy, getting a shout there as well. Luke, who's your Employee of the Week at Tottenham? Who's been the best Tottenham-related person this week?
He's not Tottenham. I just want us to do a special shout out to Ali McQuest because he made me absolutely laugh my head off when we was playing against in the last game. Sorry, because he said that Solanke deserved an assist on top of his goal because of the way that he set it up for himself. But in terms of employee of the week, I'm going to go Archie Gray just because of how much negative feedback he's had from so many of the fan base. And I would argue some of it has been quite fair. But I think the way that him and also Bergvall in that midfield together, I think they set a good standard against Dortmund. So I'm going to go with him as the employee of the week. But agree with Sean's one.
Connor, who's your employee of the week?
So when you originally asked me this, I was going to say Simmons, but that's boring because I've just said Simmons for stock rising. So I'm not going to go anyone Tottenham. I'm going to go, just so we can plug this one more time, Harley. Nice. The 15-year-old Spurs fan is my employee of the week. Please get over to the GoFundMe page as well. Really, really important cause. The family are looking to raise $2.5 million, I think it is, for a crucial operation for him. And so any support, hugely appreciated. So please get over there.
And again, I think this one might be a little bit more unanimous, particularly in the chat. Who's going to get in the bin this week then from Tottenham related? Again, could be anyone, could be a player, could be one of our illustrious executive board members, could be anyone, could be someone from social media. I'll kick things off, and I'm obviously going to go Kolo Muani. I assume most people are heading that way as well. I want Muani to get in the bin. I don't want him to play for Tottenham again, to be honest. But Luke, who's getting in the bin this week?
Let's give it to Paratici because he's in the bin anyway, isn't he? I'm glad you come to me because Sean's nicked mine for the last couple. So yeah, Paratici. But I suppose whoever's kept Paratici, because Paratici's clearly said I'm off, see you later, goodbye, and someone's asked him to stay around. But yeah, Paratici, get in the bin. As I said, we've had more directors of football, or same amount of directors of football leaving the club as signings this window, which is absolutely shambolic. So see you later. See you later, the Don.
And Connor, I know your answer is going to be, and I can't believe the name already came up on the show. Who's getting in the bin for you, Connor?
Yeah, so when Sean mentioned it,
are you going to mention? I was about to mention him now. I was going. What are we doing here? You don't know, for fuck's sake.
Rob McKenzie.
Connor messaged me before the show. I can't believe his name's come up twice. It hasn't crossed my mind for years.
No one knew who he was. I could easily use Enoch, Lewis family, any of that. But I thought Rob McKenzie because when I heard these two dopes that we've scouted from West Ham, I just thought if that's the fruits of his labour, I mean, in the job, it's almost like Somerville had quite a good game against us. Let's get him in, and then we're talking to West Ham. Let's swap keeper. You know, what are we doing? So Rob McKenzie's mine. So now, Sean, you're going to struggle, I think.
No, I've got one. I'm going to say that the physio who made Bergvall bounce up and down and do star jumps on the sideline when he's clearly got an injury that's going to keep him out for 3 months.
Graham Potter was probably watching that thinking, what are you doing? Please stop.
I mean, unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable. Our medical team needs to be seriously, whatever their criteria, whatever box ticking they're doing, it's the wrong ones. Listen, I thought we were going to talk about Rob McKenzie in more detail. This guy needs a proper analysis because what is he up to? What is he up to? Like, I think I could do a better job than him. I genuinely could. I think we could all do a better job.
Not now. Now the data's gone. We're all in trouble now.
We're screwed now. We're screwed. FBRS is down. Yeah. Yeah. For me, though, medical team just for making our man. Not just this time as well. Do you remember when Dejan Kulusevski dislocated his knee and they basically made him run up and down on the spot for 10 minutes?
Drag us in as well. Drag us in there, made him do star jumps. He's done his ACL. Yeah. Just do star jumps. You'll be absolutely fine. You can work that off, mate. Oh, okay, cheers. It's like, what is going on here? It's hilarious.
Our club is a joke. We are laughing stock at times.
And the reverse of that, though, a positive award, because we are a laughing stock, but we do have a very funny way of showing ourselves on the big stage at sometimes. A final award, which I need help in the chat for as well, is the official Spurs Dog Walking Award. So we've got 3 clubs that we seem to be able to walk around and do what we want with. Man City, Man United and Dortmund. Who is our biggest dog that we're allowed to take on a walk? Because we seem to have a hold over all 3 of these clubs at the moment. Dortmund, we beat 5 times in a row now in the Champions League. So, Luke, who's our biggest dog walker out of all of these clubs? We seem to have a hold on all of them at the moment.
It's just got to be City. It's just hilarious that they are just imperious in so many ways, and they literally, you can tell, they come to our stadium and they go, what are we going to do today? And it's just hilarious because we turn up thinking exactly the same thing. What are we going to do today? We've got no clue. So yeah, I think City have to be my pick. But what a great hold to have over some three huge clubs.
Sean?
Yeah, it's to be different. I'd say I think Man United. I think just in recent times, what was it like? We beat them 4 times last season, lifted the trophy.
Unbeaten in the last few years against them.
Yeah, this is Manchester United. Yeah, I know, mate. You're not a struggle for us, bro. So back in your box, Gary. Back in your box. Roy Keane. What are we doing here? Yeah, Man United for me. Listen, it's lovely to have a hold over all of them. Any one of them's fine. But yeah, Manchester United. I know more Manchester United fans, having grown up in Surrey. At the time when Manchester United were the best team in the world. Basically, everybody around here who doesn't support a London team supports Manchester United. So I know a lot of United fans, and it was glorious last year. No matter how bad we were, if I was bumping into friends, I'd always have something to celebrate. Because we always smash them. So yeah, for me, United.
And Connor, just to finish off, how predictable was that result last night? It's such a Tottenham thing to happen, right?
Yeah, it is. And look, do you know what? I was gonna finish it off by answering Dortmund as well, just because there was I
think that's 5 Champions League wins in a row against them.
Yeah, five in a row. I also didn't want to jinx City, because I probably want them to beat us. We play them next, given they're chasing Arsenal down. But with Dortmund, I don't know if anyone saw on Twitter, their Twitter page put out something of it was meant to be a cockerel, of looking all dishevelled and stuff. And then also when the Champions League draw was done, they put something else out, and it just, it's all a bit ironic for a team that we dog walk. So it was. I'll go Dortmund.
And just a massive thank you again to Sean and Luke for coming on today. It's been a really good to run that past them. And Connor, any final messages before we wrap up?
No, just huge thank you, to both Sean and Luke. Please get over, as we said earlier, to Spurs Talk Show, Spurs 5, Football Link, Rabbit Hole Ramblings, Sean Butler TV. There you go. I remembered all 5. And more importantly, get over to Spotlight on Spurs as well. For Luke, please like and subscribe this channel as well. And huge support again. So good to see sort of 350-ish of you in here. And then finally,
we couldn't do as well
one message for Harley.
Couldn't do as well as Ricky. You said
no, we couldn't. No, not quite. The slightly better podcast host in the Tottenham community. Yeah.
And appreciate you guys. Listen, great channel. Thanks for having me. You guys are going to fly. You guys are going to have a fantastic success here. So appreciate you.
A lot of it is, these two in particular, I'd say, behind the scenes or what helped us to get up and running. So we're really, really appreciative of them. Definitely be back on very, very soon, I'm sure. And Connor, when are we going to be back?
Back on tomorrow actually, maybe as well. So we're looking at maybe doing something during the day tomorrow. That's probably going to be a bit more football finance heavy for anyone that is as boring as me and interested in that sort of stuff. And then back on Sunday with Paul O'Keefe, 9:00. Be all right.
Well, we got on to talk about transfers, but sad at the moment. I'm going to be talking about the weather, I think, the way things are going. But yeah. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
We can ask him why he's blocked Sean, I suppose.
Please do. Actually,
I know he's got a block list that's bigger than I think anyone on Twitter. So he uses that function a lot, that guy. But thank you so much, everyone, and don't forget Hope for Harley as well. And come on, you Spurs.